Here's some collections of stuff.
Hey Sean, I just kicked your thing.
You just what?
I kicked your thing.
Oh, that's all good. It's fairly close. Here's something. I was sitting in a colleague's class last year. And it was a writing 121 class or writing 122. I forget which class it was. And the kids had to read articles and then talk about, pick a side on an article and argue their side. Like whether they thought the theme of the article was fair or not fair, whether they agree with it or disagree with it. And this was an interesting one. It was tied back to a study who I've now forgotten. I've now forgotten the author of the original study. But it was talking about energy drinks and how awful they are because of their unusually high amounts of caffeine. Okay, so if you know, a Jolt or a Rockstar or whatever has these ridiculous amounts of caffeine. So I started just doing some Googling and checking some articles out. And I can't read that. Let me read it over here. Cardiac MRI reveals energy drinks alter heart function. Ooh, okay, that sounds bad. Caffeine is up to 3 times higher than in other caffeinated beverages like coffee or soda. So here we're talking about the typical energy drink, having caffeine amounts up to 3 times higher than a cup of coffee, which FYI is about 95 milligrams. 8-ounce cup of coffee, 95 milligrams. There's your benchmark we're using for measurement here. This one over here, caffeine info often misleading or missing on energy drink labels. So I started to see all this data, I'm like, my God, there's some pretty damning evidence against energy drinks. Looks like maybe this paper's got a point. So I kept digging because I'm me. And I found, now this is called Caffeine Informer. As far as I can tell, it's fairly unbiased. It's not trying to pick a side one way or the other, energy drinks are bad, energy drinks are good. It's just, here's what we've studied on these beverages, and here's what's in them. So, and I took a screenshot. I gave you the website if you want to check it out. It's got, I think, I want to say about 1,000 different drinks, some of which are also off the market now. They've been pulled. A few of them have actually caused people to die because they were so full of stimulants. So a couple of them go off the market. So anyway, I went and collected some data. Here you go. Here you go. This is only, 578, not 1,000. There are 578 of them. Here's a chunk of them. Now remember, in a cup of coffee, 95 milligrams of caffeine. Let your eyes scroll through there. These are milligrams of caffeine per fluid ounce. Now you have to take that 95 and divide it by 8. Because the definition of a cup of coffee is 8 fluid ounces. So that's about what? 8? 95 divided by
12.
12, thank you. 12 fluid ounces-ish. 12 fluid ounces of gone. So look for the number 12 in there, and look for how many are above 12. It's kind of hard to see, yeah? It's kind of hard to see. There's lots of zeros. There's lots of 9s and 2s and things like that. There's a 32. There was 100 somewhere. 118.5.
500.
Is there a 500? Where is it? Nope, 434.8.
Yes.
The second column.
Second column.
Down.
Boom, 500. Per fluid ounce.
Yeah.
Now imagine the cup it comes in, because these things never come in little tiny little pinky cups. So anyway, it was hard to look at, so I decided to make a box plot. There's the modified box plot. That's the modified box plot. Now, can you see the box plot? Exactly. It's smushed. So I gave you the somewhere over here. Oh, I've lost them now. Oh, here they are. 578. The median amount of caffeine per fluid ounce, 9.5. That means at least half of the beverages that are out there have less caffeine than a cup of coffee per fluid ounce. Okay, with me so far? If we've defined a cup of coffee as 8 ounces of coffee, brewed, now I don't know how they brewed it, because you can brew it differently to get different amounts of caffeine, yes? But so I'm not sure how that, but Google tells me it's 95 milligrams, I'm going to go with that. So at least half have less than a cup of coffee. Third quartile, 12.5. That's essentially the same as a cup of coffee. So now 75% of the data points have the same or less caffeine than a cup of coffee. I'm not saying these things don't have other bad things in them. I'm saying the argument that caffeine drinks have more, that these drinks have more caffeine than coffee is starting to fall apart as I analyze. Okay, I'm not saying that they're not bad in other ways or good in other ways, whatever. I'm saying that the argument that they are more caffeinated. So I kept looking. Can you see the outliers in the data set? Yes, there are lots of them. They start here and stretch all the way out here. Why are there so many of them? Why are there so many freaking outliers? Because they're in distance.
Yeah, they're just not falling in the...
Right. Your interquartile range is extraordinarily tight. It's only 8.5 milligrams of caffeine. You multiply that by 1.5, you get 12 milligrams. You stack 12 up and below the first and third quartiles. Yeah, there was a 500 in there, yes? There was also, obviously, something over 700.
Yeah.
Which I think is off the market now, obviously. God, poor heart. But like, it doesn't take, 250, 300, 350, 400. The problem, and this is what I was getting at, the article that was claiming the awfulness of the caffeine was using the outliers to prove their point. Here's a list of your outliers right here, friends. There they are. 22.5 is considered an outlier based on that definition. Is that fair? Your call if it's fair or not. It's a mathematical outlier based on the definition. So, why should we care about outliers? Because it allows you to see the validity of an argument. Here's one example. It allows me to read that paper and go, wait a minute. Did they actually randomly sample energy drinks? Or did they go right to the tails, right to the 700 or the 500? Just FYI, to ruin the surprise, they went right to the tails. They went right to the tails. They quoted one that had 5,000 milligrams of caffeine in the can, which is believable. If you've got 700 milligrams per fluid ounce times 5 or 6 fluid ounces, it's a little ridiculous. Please!
So I was reading my medication pamphlets because I'd seen a commercial saying that it can cause death.
It can?
Can cause death. So then I read the information pamphlet that came with my medication. The person that died in the study died from a car accident.
Bless you for reading the information pamphlet that came with your medicine. Bless you for reading that paper. Bless you for reading. Which brings up my next point. Go ahead, Nick.
Could a trimmed mean have anything to do with
Well, the idea is, should you even use a mean with that many extreme points on the one tail? Even a trimmed mean is going to miss a lot of those extreme values. Great question. Trim mean does take care of outliers, but the amount you have to trim that down to get rid of the extremes, you might lose half your data set by the time you're done. I mean, we had, 100 outliers out of 578? It's kind of ludicrous if you think about it. So yeah, Nick, in general, yes, that's an excessively extreme data set. This is an example of that in action. Now, this is a ridiculous one. I think I mentioned this with you before about Larry Bird and his salary. This is a perfect example of an outlier that should have never been used. Should have never been used. You don't talk about a business degree holder from the University of Indiana, Indiana State University, who happens to be an NBA, play for the Celtics, and move in with everybody else to give an inflated average. Perfect example. That's when you trim the mean. You get rid of that one data point and the lowest and recenter. Perfect example. Now, a little more interesting. Here's an example we do in 244. This is what Mars tells me should be in a bag of milk chocolate M&Ms. That's the colors that should be in there and the percentages they should exist. These are the percentages I have seen in, I think, 12 years of, if you've been to my office, if you walk into my office and look off to the left, there are 2 clipboards with letters on them. One is a letter I send to Mars every 3 months with our updated data. The other is the rejection letter from Mars coming about 3 weeks later saying, thank you for playing, try again next time. Every 3 months I write him a letter and say, guys, this is not right. This is right. In other words, if you're claiming this is right, that means I'm getting outlier data all the time. How likely is it to get outlier data all the time? Well, if you were getting outlier data all the time, what?
They're not really outliers.
They wouldn't be outliers, now would they? Which means something is up. Is it a facetious example? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Here's one that's not so facetious, though. Okay? This is the birth month distribution of the men's national team, U.S. men's national team. Those of you, the Super Bowl was just last weekend. There's another large sporting event going on in the summer this summer. I'm not sure if you're aware about the World Cup. It's a slightly bigger deal worldwide, not so much in America. Nobody cares about it in America. The rest of the world does seem to give a damn. It's soccer. It's like football without the, yeah, anyway. The U.S. men's national team. Birth month distributions. Portland Timbers. Birth month distribution. Take a look at the two pie charts. Do you notice anything? Do you notice anything interesting about the 2 pie charts?
It's hard to see the key, but
It is.
September
Where's September? September in which? In men's national team?
in both.
They're both about
September's here.
Right, they're similar. And then,
Oh, it's here as well. Good.
and then is February, is it February
Mhm.
big in the men's national?
February's big here. March. If you look at January through March, it takes up more than a quarter of the pie chart. That made me think a little bit about why. Why would you take up more than a quarter of the the pie chart should be about a quarter. I mean, if the birthdays are roughly uniformly distributed.
Is there an age limit on the team?
There's an age limit when kids play Pee Wee League sports. So think about this. And next time you're at a professional sporting event, I encourage you to check this out. Look at the roster. You don't have to buy one of the programs. But look at like a hockey team, or a football team, or a football team. Look at their age distributions. You'll notice something interesting on average. You've got more people. It didn't work on the Timbers. It worked beautifully on the men's national team. You've got more players playing professionally that were born early in the year. Why is that? Why is that?
They're bigger.
Think about when they're 4 and 5 years
They're
old.
bigger.
They're bigger because they were born earlier. The cutoff's January 1st usually. So those kids that were born real close to that cutoff have essentially an extra year of growth over a kid born in December. Now that doesn't make a huge deal when you're ancient like me, but when you're 4 years old and you've got a whole year of growth on a 5-year-old, guess what you're going to be? Bigger, probably stronger, maybe faster. And all of a sudden the coaches notice you because you're bigger, stronger, and faster. Not necessarily better, but you're bigger, stronger, and faster. Therefore they get grabbed and they go to Pee Wee League and they go to the next league and the next league. Next thing you know, they're in the funnel for professional sports.
They get more attention.
They get more attention just by virtue of their size, to buy a sample. Interesting. Outlier data. Why do we care? Because it's interesting. Because it goes, holy crap. You're a professional athlete, start trying to get pregnant in March, I guess. I'm guessing, I don't know. So, speaking of that, I like the unexpected nuances. I like that. So, my son started riding his bike, I think it was around 36 months of age. This is the day he started riding his bike. Never cried so much in my life since the day he was born. And I said to myself, he's 36 months of age riding his bike, 3 years just before his 3rd birthday. Holy hell, that seems early to me. Do you guys remember when you started riding your bikes? I was between 5 and 6, and I thought,
Yeah.
God, this kid's riding his bike at 3. Who else started riding the bike around 3? You did, Alan, yes.
Well, my dad said I was. Said,
Oh, yeah, okay, good.
He said I would look like a little circus monkey because my bike was so small.
Oh, I know he did. Dude, it's so cute. He got rid of this thing in like 3 weeks. So cute, little circus monkey. So I called my mom, I'm like, Mom, when did I ride my bike? And she said 5 and a half, 6, somewhere in there. And I said, that's kind of weird. Like Max is here. I'm gonna turn this off for a second. Just to draw a quick graph for you guys. Just a quick graph. So we'll put it over there. That'll work. Well, hang on. I want to come back to that. Thank you. I want to come back because one of the things definitely is I'm a huge biker. So he always saw me riding a bike. So maybe he just wanted to be like Dad and ride his bike too. But the problem was I had 2 data points. I had Max at 3 years. And I had me, I'm going to call it 6 years because it was right around there. So here's Max, here's me. So I called my mom, she's like, yeah, you were like 5 and a half, 6 years old. I was like, okay. So then I started emailing my friends, when did you guys start riding your bikes? And my friend Matt was like, I don't know, man. It was like over here somewhere, and Joe was here, and Chris was here, and other Matt was there, and Nowazik was there. And I started getting this idea that like, okay, so all my friends basically rode the bike the same as I did. So is Max an outlier? Looks like it, yeah? But then I started talking to Max's friends' parents. Because the first one to ride the bike in the crew was Owen. He rode his bike first. And apparently he was a little bit older than Max, but because he was born earlier, it ended up happening first. Does that make sense? So Owen started riding around here. Lily, right around here. Okay, Jessica, right around there. And I started getting the distribution of Max's friends' ages. Which means that Max, yeah, was an outlier for my data set. But was he an outlier for that data set? He was perfectly believable. Essentially, you had a data set here and a data set here. And the reason you like outliers is sometimes it gives you a glimpse into, oh, you're not here anymore, you're over here. And then what's the next question I asked? What's the next question I asked?
Training wheels are there.
Why? Why is he over here? Did he use training wheels? No, I don't believe in those things.
For those bikes with pedals or those other bikes?
We had Max on, they call them striders, we made one. We took an old bike and chopped the pedals off and just filed them down so he didn't cut himself. And he was riding this strider bike, which essentially is a bike with no pedals that they run on top of. So they're sitting on the seat and they're running. And then as he gets more daring, because he's my son, he starts coasting. So what happens?
Balance.
Develops balance at the age of 2.5. Little helmet on, don't run it. Falls over sometimes, of course. Also starts doing curve jumps, as he calls them. Curve jumps, so cute. At the age of 3, with no pedals, which is a little bit terrifying. No brakes. But here's this little dude running around developing balance. What do training wheels do? They steal.
Yes.
They steal the idea of learning about balance. If you guys ever think about putting your kids on training wheel bikes, don't do it. Take a bike, chop the pedals off, or get them a strider bike or her a strider bike, and let them be on that. It's amazing. And all these kids use the strider bikes, every single one of them. Now, I can't prove that's what had them riding a bike girl. I can't prove it. But that's the only data point that's different, other than the fact that, I mean, not all these kids' parents bike as much as I do. So I can kind of rule that one out. It's not just that I push biking, it's that all these kids were on those striders. Yeah?
I have a third outlier. I didn't start riding a bicycle until I was like 9 or 10.
Uh-huh.
I started asking my other family members,
Uh-huh.
and they were the same thing. Because we just had this big debate at our house. But we lived out in the country, and there was no smooth area
Oh.
to ride. So we all learned to ride motorcycles at age 5, but bicycles at 9 or 10.
But maybe you had balance. You had your balance from age 5 on a motorcycle. And thank God you all lived.
There was a cutoff to motorcycles before the age of 5. Legally, now the new law is...
I'm trying to envision that. It's kind of comical. A 5-year-old riding a motorcycle. They make really small ones?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
The truck
That was Harley.
Yamaha.
Oh! Okay. Got it. Free balance. I like that. Thank you, Fred. Love it. Third Outliers fan. Excellent. Hi. Nick, could you hit the camera if you don't mind? Yes!